lust, and lies. I am your host. I am your host, Ken Canyon, and today we're going to talk about something that is pervasive in many, many relationships. And I titled this, Your Children Are Killing Your Relationship. Your children are killing your relationship. So let me tell you why I did this, why I decided to do this. I decided to do this one because, I got an email from a DM. I got a DM from a client or a potential client who said, hey, Ken, I have children, not sure when I should introduce my children to the person. And I went on to ask them some questions about their children, about the relationships. And they've been in the relationships for about, 4 or 5 months. And I know a lot of women are reluctant to introduce children to another guy. Now, however, when that time comes, and we're going to probably do that later on this week, talk about when. But today we're going to talk about how your children and what people do with their children, how it impacts the relationship. Now, some people don't have children, and some people have children who have aged out. You know what I mean by they're not living in the house and they are grown. Now, so I wanted to do this just to tell people, if you have children living in the house and even children who are outside the house, and how it affects the relationship, how it affects your relationship. And the truth is, I don't care how old you are, your children can affect your relationship. So let me just dig into this, and I won't be before you very long. I'll just be before you to get my point. Once I get my point across, I'm done. I'm out. So, hold on. I think I got to sneeze. Okay. All right. Whew, I got allergies. All right. So, understand this, that women, so let's say, but before we get into all of that, let's say you are a single woman, single mother, you have children, and you're trying to juxtapose, how do I bring in a new guy to meet my children? How do I do that? And how do I do that effectively? Because I don't want to taint my children to a new guy, and I don't want to taint the new guy, to my children per se. Now, so what we're going to talk about today is how having children ruins the relationships. And you'll understand what I mean when I dig right into it. Because I remember years ago when I met my wife, she had 2 children. They were young then, and I had always said, and I'm going to be transparent. I had always said back then, I would never marry a woman with children. And it wasn't that she had the children, but my mindset was that kids were always disrespectful to step-parents. Now, what I didn't realize at the time, because first of all, you know what they say? They say things like, you ain't my daddy, I ain't gonna listen to you, you're not my daddy. And then they proceed to be disrespectful. And because they're not your children, you can't tag that ass like you really want to. And so, but it ended up being that I'm going to share with you how my wife and I navigated that, and how those girls became my girls. All these years later, I'm their dad, their father, it's like they're the greatest blessing in my life. But it started back then. So I want to start by saying 2 things that men don't like. And they may never say this to you. Number 1, they don't like unruly children. Children that are just unruly, no discipline. You let them do what they want. They stay up as long as they want. And you think that you're doing a good job. And I understand that the man, maybe their dad is not in their life, and you're like, I'm just doing the best that I can. And what you're doing is you are conditioning them to be unruly. You're conditioning them to be disrespectful. You're conditioning them to not have boundaries. And so the second thing men don't like is they don't like children that are disrespectful. And we're going to get into what disrespectful truly is. What does it mean when a child is disrespectful? Okay, I don't care if they're 17 years old, 18 years old. Just understand this. You as the female or male, okay, depending if you stay with your children, you have the children, you set the tone. You are the catalyst for this relationship to flourish. If you don't set the tone, the relationship won't flourish. It won't matter. And so I have heard children say things like, you ain't my dad, I ain't gotta listen to you. You're not my dad, I'm not listening, I'm not gonna do this. And the children go on to disrespect the people. Well, what happens is you don't know, but you're ruining your relationship. So let's get into it. Number one, what does it mean to disrespect? What does the word respect mean? Because they did a survey of children and they asked them, what does respect mean to you? Do you know that 82% of the children said respect means being nice. It just means being nice. If I'm nice to you, I respect you. If I'm nice to you, I respect you. Okay. Now, being nice is only part of the scenario. Being nice is only part of what respect is. So I want to give you a definition today that I heard. I didn't come up with it. I heard it from one of the it was a parenting coach who was talking about it. And I was like, oh, that is truly significant. So here's what the parenting coach said. Parenting coach said, if we can get our children to understand that respect, I wrote this down. The definition of respect is treating someone in a way that does not make them feel small, insignificant, or unimportant. Treating someone in a way that does not make them feel small, insignificant, or unimportant. See, here's the problem. A lot of times little Jimmy says some shit and you let him get away with it, and he says it to other people and you think it's cute. Or you like, I don't want to get on him about everything. And what you don't know is, especially young men, young boys, you have to check them. You have to chin check them every time they do something, because if you don't chin check them, you're conditioning them to keep doing the behavior. So my dad, and I understand that some of you don't have a father in the home. That's a conversation for another time. You're stuck. That's the card you've drawn. That's the hand you've been dealt. We got to deal with it. And so you have to understand that when you have children in the relationship, you cannot allow the children to make somebody else, be it another child, be it an adult, feel small, feel insignificant, or unimportant. And that's what the definition of respect is. Respect is more than just being nice to someone. And that's the reason why, if we don't teach our children this, they're never going to know. If we think if my child is nice, okay, he respects you. Well, no, because you might let him say things or insinuate things that create a negative environment in your relationship. And see, if you're in a relationship and you have children, the other person sees that. The other person feels that. And what a man does, he makes a calculation. And the calculation is, is this relationship worth me having to deal with that kid, that person, that child? And they make a calculation in their head, and they may never tell you that, look, I'm out because of the kid. But the truth is, that's why they're out. So here's what I want to do. I want to give you 3 things, ladies, today to help bridge the gap with your children and relationships. Now, we're going to get into later on, probably this week, I thought about it, doing a kind of a 2 or 3 part series on when you should introduce your children to the person or how you should navigate that. But let's start with the children. And this is what you got to do. And I thought about it because I was and here's why I thought about this. This weekend, my granddaughter was over at the house. So I have 5 grandchildren. And one of them is the oldest. And so she likes to spend time with us, me and my wife, by herself. Because, you know, she's older than the little ones. So now they're starting to annoy her. And I understand that. And I told her, I said, that's normal. Don't feel bad. You're in a different age bracket. You're in a different age group. And your desires, your likes, dislikes are different than the young ones. So I said, cool. So we had a conversation about respect. We had a conversation about what respect truly means and how you make other people, when you make other people feel small, unimportant, when you make other people feel insignificant, you're disrespecting them. And then she said, well, how? And then I began to explain to her what that does to everyone. And I explained to her that the truth is, Maddie, I said, the number one need for every human being, including you, including Pop Daddy, which is me, including Gigi, which is my wife, is the need for significance. You know, and then when we don't get significance, we feel devalued. Don't you feel devalued when you have people, because there was a bullying incident, didn't you feel devalued? She said, yes. And I said, so what we don't want to do is we don't want to do that to other people. So this is what I'm teaching ladies who are in relationship to teach your children. Number one, let's teach them the 3 pillars of respect. And when we do this, when we hold them accountable to this, your relationship, because see, this is what happened to me in my relationship. You know, I didn't know at the time the science behind it, but what I did know is what I would tolerate and what I wouldn't tolerate. I did know that how I grew up, and I did know that what my dad instilled in me and what my mom instilled in me. And so now I understand the science behind it and what it actually was that we were doing. So the first thing is, and this is the hard part, when you're teaching your children respect, number one is you have to teach them to have respect for themselves and others. And the reason why that's important is, and what does respect for yourself do? It is, we go back to what we said. If they're making themselves feel insignificant, you have to be the one to show them that they're worthy of respect. You will never, a child will never respect another person unless they, to the degree that they respect themselves. The respect for themselves actually comes from you because they don't know what respect is. And because it's making themselves feel significant, making themselves feel important, making themselves. And so what you have to do is you have to show them that they're not small. They're not insignificant, that they are important. Because what you do is, because if they feel small, insignificant themselves, they're going to treat, it will be easy to teach someone, to treat someone else that way. And so when you're talking about respect for others, it all starts with what they said in the survey. Be nice to people. Okay? Be nice to people because what happens is the more you're nice, the more you have a cordial spirit. The more you have a cordial spirit, the more people honestly want to do for them. Here's the thing. There was a study, and I've done this many, many years. I've studied sales. I've been in sales a long time. And people like to do business. All of you know this. People like to do business with people they like. We all like to do business with people we like. We like to go to a restaurant with people we like. I mean, like we like to sit in this section with the server that we like. We like to think about it, y'all. Because this is human nature. So what happens is you'll go to a restaurant and you remember that Abigail served you last time. And you go to the restaurant and say, hey, I want to sit in Abigail's section because Abigail was nice to me. And what nice represents is Abigail made me feel significant. And so when we're teaching our children who are in a relationship with somebody else, all we want to teach them is to be nice and to when we're nice to the person that I'm dating, I'm making them feel significant. Now, I'm not saying you have to they can't tell your kid what to do because maybe they haven't earned that part. Maybe they haven't earned that yet. I get it. I said, I get that part. Maybe they haven't earned it. But however, what I am saying is that You are the catalyst to helping them respect for themselves. That which if to the degree that I respect myself, I can respect others. The second thing is when you're teaching your children and helping them not ruin your relationship, is to help them respect property. So get this. I was telling my granddaughter this. I was telling them, when you teach your children to respect property, that is one of the best things you could ever do. Because respecting property, it goes a little bit different like most people think. I'm not talking about respecting, those are your shoes. Those are your brother's shoes. You don't wear their shoes. I get that part. But here's the part where they don't respect property and we're not teaching them. So for instance, we need to teach them where property. So for instance, if they have an example, shoes, and they throw their shoes in the living room, okay? Now, because we have not taught them, we have not conditioned them that property has a place. That property is valued, because now the property either goes on your feet or in your closet. And what we're doing is, you might think it's insignificant, it means nothing, but you're teaching them the value of property and the boundaries of property. Because what I taught my grandkids are this: that belongs to you. And when you pick up something that doesn't belong to you without permission, what you are doing is you're essentially invading on the other person's property. Essentially, you're disrespecting their property. And y'all, what happens? What happens with our children? We don't teach them the value of respecting property. Thus, they grow up with no boundaries at all. And then they think they can get anything. I can pick up such and such book. He'll be all right with it. It's nobody. It don't mind. And so we have to respect boundaries. Y'all, we have to respect property. And we have to teach that. And the third thing is, when you're in a relationship, because men see this, we see it all day long, especially if I'm in a relationship with you and I can tell if your child doesn't respect property. I can tell it. And if they don't respect property now, what's going to happen? And what a man, again, he makes the calculation. Do I want to take on this mission? Because y'all are a package deal. I remember when my wife and I got together, she didn't have to tell me they were a package deal. I already knew that. The kids her children went with her. And I had to accept every part of them, all of them. If I was going to be with her, I had to accept the children too. And ultimately, they became my children. So what I'm simply saying is, but I taught them to respect property. I taught them you don't touch that if it doesn't belong to you. I taught them that you ask. I taught them all of that. And they were the model citizens in school because of that very nature. Because they had the nature of respecting property. And the last thing is respecting authority figures. So let me say this. And I want to get deep for a minute. Being black in America as a young male is tough. I'm not gonna lie to you. You know, when the cops pull up behind me, I get nervous. But I have been taught that I respect authority. Now, a lot of situations, y'all, if we are honest with ourselves, a lot of situations where we're seeing where African American men are being killed, are being abused, part of it could be avoided. Now, I'm not justifying anything that other people are doing. That shit is wrong. And I feel that they should be held accountable. But y'all, sometimes we have a part in it. And when we don't teach I teach my daughters. My dad taught me. He said, respect the authority. If he tells me to get out of the car, I'm getting out of the damn car. If he tells me to put my hands up, I'm putting my damn hands up. I am not provoking a situation that could end my life. I'm not. And part of it is many of the young men, and I have to be honest, part of it is they haven't been taught to respect authority. That other stuff, yeah, racism exists. I get it. I've been profiled. I've been racism against me, but I got to live another day. My life is more important than proving a point. More important than proving a point. Let's go to court and deal with that. I get it. But y'all, we, especially women, if you don't have a man in your life, my dad taught me to respect authority. He also taught me that the truth is, he said there is racism and it exists. And it exists. And you have to be better. You have to be better than them. You have to be smarter. You have to do two times as much to get noticed. All of that he taught me. And the truth is, y'all, we have to be willing to teach them that respecting authority is important. It might save their life. Now, in a relationship, I'm telling you this. Now, a man in your relationship, he may not have earned that authority figure. He may not have earned it. No, you have not been dating him long enough. Maybe you haven't. Okay, I get it. He's got to earn that in your life. I got that. But you can teach him that because this gentleman in your life is older, and you ultimately give him respect because of the authority he has being older. Now, I'm not saying that he can make you mow the grass. No. But because he is a man in your life, he deserves that respect as that authority figure. Okay? And now there are boundaries, sure. But you establish those boundaries. You're the one that helped facilitate what those boundaries look like. Okay? Maybe he hasn't earned the part where you obey authority. Maybe he hasn't earned that. Okay? And that takes some earning. But what I am saying is this. Those three things, if you get them to respect themselves and others. Second thing is respecting property. You got to make a conscious effort. And then respecting authority. Respecting authority. Many of them won't end up dead. Won't end up in a situation where we're all mourning. Y'all, we can relate this to a relationship. We can relate this to life. We can relate this to a whole bunch of things. Because at the end of the day, this show is about relationships. And men do make a calculation whether they want to undertake this or not. And I have to admit, a lot of the problems we have in our society and our culture are because the man isn't in place. He's not in place. He's not doing what he's supposed to do. He's not handling his business, taking care of the family like he's supposed to take care of. Yeah, he's not in place. But look, that's the hand we've been dealt. You got to take up the slack like always. You got to take up the slack. Our women have been strong throughout the years. They have done the jobs, done the work, helped support the family. It ain't going to stop. Y'all got to keep doing it. You got to be willing to do this. Yo, and in the process of willing to do this, you won't ruin your relationship. All right, y'all. I'm Ken Canyon. This has been Love, Lust, and Lies. And until tomorrow, peace. Every journey starts with one step. Make that today.